What's up, people? We are now on our 7th class of the course. Starting with today's class, the lessons are going to start taking a turn. In the previous classes, we discussed some of the most essential concepts and principles of the music business. But from here on out, we'll be discussing how we can take those principles and concepts and begin to apply them. Now, chances are, if you're watching this and you purchased the book and the course, you're an independent artist. You need to understand how to run your career like a business, which is exactly why the title of today's class is Direct-to-Consumer Music Business. So let's continue. First things first, we'll answer the question, what is direct-to-consumer? Then we'll form an understanding of how that works for us as independent musicians. But let's not waste any time. We're going to go to our first slide. Starting with what is direct-to-consumer, what we have here is a quote from an article written by Bernard Mark, published on April 11th of 2022. Let's read this. The direct-to-consumer, or DTC trend, also known as disintermediation, essentially means bypassing traditional intermediaries in the supply chain, including retailers, wholesalers, distributors, and advertisers, to connect directly with the end consumer. Let's stop right there for a moment. Direct-to-consumer is a business model that allows business owners to bypass other businesses in the supply chain. I'm no expert in economics, but I can tell you this. The direct-to-consumer business model was a part of the economic foundation of nearly all civilizations. Before there were industries such as pharma, food distribution, and any other industry that's relevant to us, even the music industry, everybody sold their products directly to one another without the interruption of major corporations. Now, essentially, the direct-to-consumer business model enables businesses to build clientele and sell their products directly to them. Let's read the second half of this quote here. With 81% of consumers in the U.S. saying they plan to buy from a DTC brand by 2023, it's clear that DTC represents a significant business opportunity for organizations and poses a very real threat for traditional intermediary businesses. Now, keep in mind, this article was written in 2022. Organizations who sell directly to customers are becoming a normal part of today's society. Let's read another short snippet of an article written by Greg Ashton, the founder of a media company called Grow. 2023 is officially here, and consumer preference to buy from direct-to-consumer brands is high, despite a seemingly negative news cycle. In fact, research predicts that the DTC online market will reach $213 billion by the end of 2023, with almost a quarter of shoppers believing DTC brands have better quality products, and over 60% believing they provide the best personalized and most engaging digital experiences compared to traditional brands. In recent years, a lot of musicians have become more business-minded. They want to know more about the business, how money is generated, the intricacies of record contracts and publishing deals, etc. Nonetheless, while musicians are still demanding these streaming giants and major corporations such as publishers and labels to pay them more money, businesses and society around us have already adopted the direct-to-consumer business model as a part of everyday life. We're going to use this image here as a simple tool to explain how the direct-to-consumer business model works for musicians. Now, I'm all about transparency and honesty. This image looks simpler and easier than it really is, but even still, it is nowhere near as complicated as you may think. So at the top portion of the picture, we have the artist, the website, and the fan. The direct-to-consumer business model is about selling your music, merch, and all other products directly to your fan base through the use of personalized channels of distribution. Now, as you look along the arrows that connect the artist to the website and the website to the fan, there are a few systems that must be established along the way in order for you to reach your audience. Before you build a website, you have to develop your products, such as your music, your merchandise, artwork, etc. And you may want to establish your own record label with the publishing division. Also, you want to have a system that allows you to steadily release your music. Now, as we progress through the course, I'll show you exactly how to do that. There's also some more information on how to do so written inside the book. You can find that on Chapter 5, Game Plan, page 56. In Chapter 5, there are 7 phases that can help you develop a strategic approach to building a music catalog, setting up your channels for distribution and publishing, as well as additional information about the rest of your needs as an indie musician and business owner. Now, for that arrow that's between the website and the fan, you will need to establish a simple and applicable system for marketing and data collection, which is also mentioned in the book. Now, for sake of convenience, I'm still going to be making lessons on how to do all of that. We'll talk about how to start a record label, how to set up your channels for distribution, how to build a website, as well as how to market yourself as an artist. That information can be found in Class 8 through Class 12. For the remainder of this lesson, we're going to continue to expand on the concept of direct-to-consumer and how that relates to us as musicians. Now, if you look at the bottom portion of the picture, what you'll see here is the more traditional system, sometimes referred to as the business-to-consumer model. Now, many musicians are still reliant upon record labels and distribution networks to release, promote, and monetize their music for them. When artists operate within the business-to-consumer model, all of their creative output is being funneled through major corporations. It goes from the artist to the record label or distributor, from them to the digital retailers and DSPs, and lastly, the fan. Now, even merchandise and other music-related products go from the artist to the labels, from the labels to the manufacturers, from the manufacturers to the retail stores and whatever other means of distribution, and then finally to the fan. So the real difference between direct-to-consumer and business-to-consumer is the supply chain. When we use the direct-to-consumer model, we are establishing a direct relationship with the fans as well as establishing our own means for distribution. While the business-to-consumer model keeps us detached from the fans and puts multiple corporations in between us. These major corporations have a plethora of staff and expensive systems that they use to continue their work, which results in them taking the greatest share of revenue from the distribution of music and merchandise and leaves the artist with the lesser share. Now, I'd like to be clear. I'm not here to sell you a dream, nor am I trying to convince you that the direct-to-consumer model is perfect. So let's discuss a few pros and cons of the direct-to-consumer business model. Starting off with the pros, you can develop a relationship with your fan base. You can own the customer's information, and the direct-to-consumer model is more profitable than the business-to-consumer model. Just to go back and expand a bit more on point number 1, when you develop a relationship with somebody, they're more apt to buy from you. They feel like you're somebody they can trust. If you choose to go the DTC route, you will have to develop a relationship with your fan base. And by doing so, you can create a community of lifelong supporters who buy your music and your merchandise. Which brings us to point number 2. You own the customer's info, the metrics and the analytics. You can keep those lines of communication open between you and those who support your business. Remember, the integrity of the relationship between you and your supporters will be a determining factor in how long they continue to support your music. Which brings us to point number 3. The DTC model is more profitable than the BTC model. The reason being, there are less people to pay in the supply chain. Let's move on to our next slide. Here are a few cons that are associated with the direct-to-consumer model. This business model is costly. You have the cost of websites, ads, production. There's an increase of liability financially, legally, and socially. And it is time-consuming and requires a lot of energy. In the beginning phases, it'll cost you more money than you're making. Now, if you're actively pursuing your music career, you probably figured that part out already. Recording, mixing, mastering, distribution, etc., it all costs something, which is exactly why there's an increase of liability. Liability meaning responsibility, financially for what goes on. Legally, there will be implications to owning a business and running a business, releasing music, etc. There will also be social liability as well. The way you conduct business, good or bad, mistakes, either on your behalf or on the behalf of the customers, will all affect how people talk about you, as well as your services and your products. Truthfully, the direct-to-consumer model is not for the faint of heart. As you can see at the bottom, the direct-to-consumer business model requires you to be 100% active and responsible. With all things taken into consideration, I want you to think big. Weigh out the pros and the cons of the direct-to-consumer model. The music business is saturated. There's over 100,000 songs being uploaded to DSPs every day. Thousands more artists are popping up on the internet every day. And this can be a tough road. But with all things taken into consideration, I want you to think big. Don't be discouraged about the inevitable hardships. Life is going to be hard regardless, especially if you're a musician. Yes, the space can be very competitive, and in the beginning, it may even feel impossible to build a fan base in today's market. But remember this, you are not limited by your circumstance or your situation, nor are you limited by the confines of your city, state, region, or country. You should have a global view. There are billions of people around the world, all of whom are your potential fan base and supporters. So whether you choose to adopt this system or not, continue to think big and remember the world is full of opportunity. But that is all for today's class. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you have any information to share, leave that in the comments section as well. And as always, we are a community. We are here to help each other learn and grow. That is all for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all in the next class.